So Wendy, you were on first. How's your week been?
Oh, amazing. I have loved this book. The last two chapters, I took some of the text and rewrote it for myself because I do that.
It's powerful stuff, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. I gotta say, sometimes I don't 100% agree with the way he words it. It's a little stronger than I just kind of, it's stronger than I speak. But what I do is I just tone down. I say, well, if I was going to say it this way, the way I would put it is this way, you know, because he's very strong in his words.
Yeah, I think it was V last week that said he's almost evangelical in the way he comes across. Very, very powerful speaker, and very, you know, if you hear him speak on the audio or any videos you might have watched of him, he's very enthusiastic and very upbeat all the time, as you'd expect from someone writing a book about motivation, I suppose.
Yes. But I would say overall, I have gotten a lot out of it that I didn't even look at before as an issue, and said, oh yeah. And that was a good thing. So maybe it's okay that he shakes me up a little bit.
Yeah, that's certainly what the book's intended to do, isn't it? Is to get a reaction from you and provoke something or inspire something positive, some sort of thought processes and some action from it as well.
Yes. I actually used some of the words in the book on my I'm doing some mirror work, and I wrote it down on Post-it notes in first person and plopped it up there.
Yep. Well done. Well, that's certainly putting it to good use. I'd just like to welcome Stan to the call. Stan's a fellow Aussie here in Perth, Western Australia, with just up the road from me. Well, he's actually the other side of the city, so it's quite a long drive away. But in Australian terms, it's just up the road. Just up the road in Australia can be anywhere from a 5-minute drive to 200 kilometers. Yanni, how's your week been? You're muted.
Honestly, it's been so busy. I have 2 jobs, and then I'm having this other studying finances with real estate picking up, and then started the 30-day quest with one of my a friend that Martin, you met him, right, Martin? He joined the vault, so I'm starting the 30-day quest plus other book clubs plus this one. So I was like, I feel I need more time. And then I moved this week too to a new place, so just a little bit tired, but you know, I'll, like you say, I'll catch up.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so but I love this book. I didn't read it. I finished reading the first and second one. I think I'm on the second part of the second chapter, but I started reading the second chapter because of today, the first chapter of the second part.
Right.
And it's kind of like reminds me like the power of now, you know. It just kind of make like letting you focus on the moment. And I was like, I tried to read that book again because I enjoyed it, but it kind of, it's totally different. So I think this is a little bit more, well, it's the same but different. So I like that. But it's like anything, right? Like everything, like being able to be present to enjoy everything. I wanted to be able to see the bigger picture of what's going on and getting to know you, basically the mastery of oneself.
Yep. Very good. Yeah. So I like that. Same but different. Very good. And just welcoming Jane to the call as well. So hi, how are you?
Hello. Good to see everyone.
So you're calling us from New York today?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. And Wendy, I think you're the same part of the woods, aren't you?
I'm on Long Island.
No. Oh, you are?
Yes.
What part of Long Island?
I'm in Seaford. In Seaford, New York. Where are you from?
Saratoga.
Oh, so is that upstate New York?
Yeah. Carly Simon sang about Saratoga
Oh, nice.
in You're So Vain.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
That's how I explain Saratoga to someone if they can't quite bring it to mind. Yeah.
Very good. All right, so we've got two New Yorkers. We've got Yanni in California, I believe, and Stan and myself both in Perth, Western Australia. Justin, I believe, is in Western Australia. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, welcome everyone to the call. We will get started. We're here today to continue our review of this amazing book, The Motivation Manifesto, by Brendon Burchard. I think that's how you pronounce it. 9 declarations to claim your personal power. So we started, we've already covered the introduction and section 1 on human nature, where he introduces the concept in the introduction of the Declaration of Personal Power, which has some similarities to, I suppose, the American Declaration of Independence. There's sort of some loose wording around some of the same sort of concepts there, but it's definitely about declaring your own personal power and statements of intent, as he calls it, a manifesto for what you want to achieve in life. He then explores in the section 1 that we covered previously on human nature. So we had chapters there on freedom, the concept of freedom, on fear, and on motivation itself. So I won't delve into those today because there's quite a lot of content in these next 2 chapters that we're covering, which is the first 2 chapters of section 2, which is the 9 declarations. So we're working through the 9 declarations. The first 2 of those, first one being we shall meet life with full presence and power, and the second one being we shall reclaim our agenda. You could do a whole mastermind call on each of those chapters, but we're endeavoring to squeeze in the 2 of them today. So in our review of the book as we move forwards, as we said last week, I think it was Veronica that said that he is almost evangelical in his approach. If you get the opportunity to listen to Brendon, a few of you might be listening to the audiobook or have watched videos of him, he's a very enthusiastic, upbeat speaker, as you would expect from someone writing a book about motivation. And he certainly energizes you as you listen to him, and you feel like, yeah, I can do this. I've got this covered. So let's look, without further ado, at the first chapter of section 2, which is we shall meet life with full presence and power. So this is one of the first of the 9 declarations. And he said that an affliction is stealing joy from the world's people, poisoning what was meant to be a divinely inspired experience of freedom. It is a haunting absence from the present moment. So as Yanni said, quite similar in a lot of ways. If you've read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, he really explores this concept of being present. And he said the majority of humanity seems lost in the abyss of unawareness. The hollow and glazed eyes of so many reveal it all. Minds trapped in the dark, unfeeling hinterlands of distraction and thoughtlessness. Wow, that's he's got a good way with words, hasn't he? He's certainly painting the picture of this, well, of humanity being pretty much asleep and just getting through the day and just distracted and not really being present, living life to the full, and really exploring our higher levels of consciousness and our creativity and our, we still seem to be making the same old mistakes of the past. There's war, there's famine, there's disease, there's all these things going on that have plagued mankind throughout the centuries. And in some ways, we don't seem to be getting any further forward. He said that life is not meant to be a long series of unfelt and undirected experiences. We are not to be zombies and slaves, unconscious animals trapped in dumbness to the moment, leading mindless and powerless lives. Wow, that's a bit bleak, isn't it? It's a bit kind of post-apocalyptic. You know, it's sort of, you can imagine there's been so many of these kind of programs though, hasn't there? You know, Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead and all these sorts of zombie type movies, and there's a lot of conceptual sort of comparisons there with the world he's describing it in this, the beginning of this chapter. And it always reminds me actually of the time that I first went back over to the UK. First time from Australia, having gone back after 9 years of being in Australia. I think I've now been here 35. But I went back, and my first awakening of coming back to London was landing, getting out of the plane and just seeing the cloud base being down here and sort of feeling like I was being squashed into the ground by the grayness of the clouds above me. And then getting onto the London subway and just looking around, and everybody on the train just had this glazed expression on their faces, and a sort of zombie-like expression of just being zoned out and just not present at all. And which was such a contrast to coming from the Australian outback as I had at the time. I'd flown from Darwin, and you know, the sky in Australia just being pure blue, and straight away having that optimism because of the blue sky, you know, and feeling like you can do anything because the world's sort of encouraging it. But that was my first impression going back to London. There was this grayness, and everybody just seemed to be dressed in grey and just no oomph in them, you know. It's probably a lot of Londoners might disagree with that description of it, but that was certainly my first impression coming back from Australia. So he goes on to talk about that all we seek is here with us and available to us in this moment. All the real riches, love, passion, joy, satisfaction, harmony are available now on the menu of the mind, available for us to savor should we awake and order them. So there you go. You just got to pick the right things off the menu. So he talks about the half-experienced life, that so much of our lives goes unnoticed. We miss the sunrises and sunsets, which funnily enough is something I'm always very conscious of. I always try to catch a sunset if I can, and occasional sunrises. I'm more of a night person, but I certainly make a conscious decision to observe them and to, you know, have a glass of wine with the sunset, that kind of thing, because it's important. Life is important to be present. He said, we miss the sunrise and sunsets. We don't sense how we're feeling for hours and often days at a time. We didn't see the kind stranger help the elderly man across the street. We missed that appreciative smile on our spouse's face. We didn't sense our co-worker's depression because we never paused to look her in the eye or ask about her day. Locked indoors and hidden behind machines, we missed the entire season. The winter passed and we didn't play in the snow. The spring bloomed and we overlooked the flowers. The summer and the fall passed so quickly, and we don't even remember the trees changing or feel satisfied with the time we spent outside. Wow. Well, I certainly don't feel that way. My wife and I make a conscious effort to really appreciate where we live in nature, surrounded by trees, and we get kangaroos in our backyard sometimes, and possums on the roof of our bar, and you know, we've just surrounded by beauty and nature where we live. And we made a conscious effort when we moved here that we would never take it for granted, that we would remind ourselves and, you know, take it in turns to remind each other of how lucky we are to live where we do, and to appreciate this nature around us and these sunsets and things like that. So he's preaching to the converted with me anyway. But for some people this would be quite shocking, I would think. He says, we mustn't be so numb or absent-minded as to allow ourselves to suffer the fate and misery of those choosing a half-interested, half-engaged life. We mustn't stay oblivious to the key moments and circumstances of our lives. There is more pulse and beauty and meaning to be had. So I highlighted this statement in orange. So for those of you who know, I highlight a lot of stuff in yellow, but if it's a really key point, or it sort of leaps out at me from the page, I'll highlight it in orange. And I'm sure everyone's got different things that leap out at them. We all have, and different things each time you read the book, which is one of the reasons why we like to go back and reread these books, because your awareness changes as you go through life. And what resonated with you a few years ago may not be the same now. Different things might resonate with you. So he says, reality is only here now, and we must learn to face it, feel it, and form it. The present is all there is. I'm sure you've heard quite a few other authors talk about this. We spend a lot of our time worrying about stuff that happened in the past. We can't change, we can't do anything about it. We spend a lot of our time worrying about things that may or may not happen in the future. And that, don't we feel stupid when we spend ages worrying about something and it doesn't even happen? How silly do we feel then? All that energy wasted worrying about something that didn't even happen. And so if we can be present, then, well, that's really where we live. We live in the present. And that's the only real thing that's there. Or is it? Well, there's books about that might say the future is actually something that you may remember from the previous past. Who knows? There's all those sort of spiritual books that talk about different dimensions. But in terms of what he's saying here, we can give others the full beam of our focus and affection. We can open our hearts, minds, and spirits to what the universe whispers to us. I love that. What the universe whispers to us. We all get those insights and those awarenesses, and yet a lot of the time we ignore them, or we're just so busy with all the stuff that we deal with these days in our busy lives that we neglect to be present, to really appreciate these things that are going on around us. So then he talks about really exploring this ripped from time. There's the sub-chapter there. We begin by releasing the past. There is very little use in thinking about yesterday or the days before it, unless recounting its joys or looking for its lessons that may help us now. It is best to release the past entirely. So that's certainly true, that the past does serve to teach us some things. If we can learn from previous mistakes or other people's mistakes that have happened in the past, and we can do things better. Or we want to remember and savor those particular moments of joy, shared memories and experiences. But yeah, the past is gone. So we really need to focus on what we want now and going forwards, because that's the only thing we can really influence. Good memories can be celebrated, he says on the next page there. And then it talks about some people who might say, well, I hate the past. I think it is the cause of all my problems today. They direct obsessive energies to looking backward with a sneer and a pointed finger. They would rather not think of the past, and yet they do, because they have mentally tied the thick rope of resentment around old situations. Great way with words, isn't it? The thick rope of resentment. I love that. Despite time and the changing world, they're still bitter about an old upset, frightful of an old fear, victim to an old situation. They are now the angry person, the whining victim, or the regretful philosopher. How much fun is it hanging around with those people? Not much. Well, it is very easy to become one of these people because our past has shaped us so much, but we must not. And we do tend to do that. We tend to use our past experiences as a guideline. And that's mainly because, as Eckhart Tolle explores in the Power of Now, we're using those past experiences to keep us safe, so that we don't make mistakes like we might have done in the past. If you burn your finger and put it on a hot stove as a child, then you learn the lesson and you remember, I better not put my finger on the hot stove. So those sorts of things are there to keep us safe. But if we stay with the anger and the resentment and the guilt and the sadness of all the things that have gone wrong in our past, and we all have them, then it's not really going to help us staying stuck there, is it? As he says, dwelling on past injuries only leaves us dispirited and torn from the moment. Before I carry on, anyone got any thoughts on that, or anything that's been bugging them from the past that they're struggling to let go, or any comments in general on that, what we've covered so far? Yeah, Wendy.
Well, this is part of the book I really love because I did spend a lot of time in my past and rehashing old stuff. Not lately, but in my past. I did it the past in my past. I like that. But as of now, what I call my past is my cement for my concrete, for my foundation.
Yep.
And I no longer look at it with anger, or I like that rope tie my neck with, but I look at it as the structure that I can build a stronger, secure life, because I learned from it. I can take with it what, and I built it with love. I concreted my past and my experiences with love. It became a foundation for me to build upon.
Very
So-
good. Well done. That's excellent.
Tony, sorry, Justin here in Perth.
Hello, how you going?
Greetings. I've just had a few issues here, so I'm back on. Tony, how much of one's growth, in terms of consciousness, it's very easy to intellectualize things, and your ego believes because you can recall information and you can tell stories. But then a lot of people, I find, in reality, they haven't really changed. They think they have, because they've regurgitated and rehashed things. So what are your thoughts on the reality versus, what we end up telling ourselves?
Well, that's a great question, Justin. Thank you for that, and good to have you with us on the call.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think a lot of it comes down to, I would recommend everyone to do what we're doing and read these books and discuss them.
Yeah.
Because it really comes down to the drive for self-understanding, self-awareness. And there's, as he's describing, there's whole populations of people out there who really aren't that bothered about being self-aware. They're just kind of getting through the day, getting through the week. And I think it does take a little bit of a conscious effort to actually explore your own psyche and your own behavior and your own perspectives on situations. And not everyone is tuned into that. And so when you find yourself in a community such as this, where everyone is on that journey, for us, it does seem, well, why aren't these people doing that? It's almost unbelievable that people aren't. And yet I know that I remember reading one stat quite a few years ago. I can't tell you where it was from, unfortunately, but I read that the average Australian reads one book a year after they leave school.
Yeah, that's true.
So, if people are not reading or not making any effort to absorb new information or to become self-analytical, self-aware, very often all they're looking for is entertainment. They come home from work and it's just, and I've done it myself, I still do it occasionally, where, I come home and I just want to veg out in front of the TV, the idiot box, as some people call it. And you are entertained. And of course, there are some great programs on there as well. You can choose what you watch, but people just don't have the concentration span that they used to have in earlier generations, where they would sit and read a book for hours on end. These days, it's, if you can't grab my attention in 30 seconds or less, I'm on to the next thing. It's swipe sideways and hit the like button, or probably should be a dislike button as well. but people just aren't that sort of tuned in, and I think this is part of why I love to do what we're doing here, is in the hope as well that we will all take it on board to inspire other people to do a little bit more of this and to become a bit more self-aware and to gradually change the world one person at a time, if that's what it takes. Does that sort of answer your question, or anyone else want to add any thoughts on it?
No, thank you. That's good feedback. I was just, because look, in the end, it is it's two sides of the same coin. I myself have caught myself being aware that because I know something doesn't mean I've experienced it. It's just something that we read. And so, as I said, I'm always cautious of the fact that the ego loves to play tricks. Someone told me years ago, you can only ever evolve or personally develop in the moment. And so oftentimes you can think that you're aware and you've improved in consciousness, but yet your results would suggest that you're just fooling yourself.
Yeah, great point, Justin. I would liken it, so I'll come to you in a moment, Jane. I saw you put your hand up there. That I play guitar, for instance, and
I love it.
for
Right.
years I ran a backpackers hostel where I had young people coming in all the time, some really amazing musicians, and we would trade songs and hope to inspire each other, because you'd learn to a certain level of guitar and then you'd plateau out, you get bored playing the same songs, and somebody else come in and teach you a new song or inspire you to do something slightly different, and you would go on to the next level and you get re-energized again and want to learn some more stuff.
Yes.
And what I always found was that just when you started to think, I'm actually getting pretty good at this, some musician would come in and just blow you away, and you'd think, I might as well throw my guitar away because I'll never be as good as that person.
Yeah, I can relate.
And then at the same time, you'd have somebody else come in and they're picking up the guitar for the first time and making sounds like, the cat screeching. And you think, oh, actually, I've come quite a long way, haven't I? I used to be like that when I first started. So not that I'm encouraging us to compare ourselves with others. I'm encouraging everyone to compare themselves with who they were the day before.
Yeah.
But to always realize that just when we think we've got it all figured out, we realize that we haven't got it figured out at all. So we're all a work in progress.
No, too easy. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Jane, did you want to add something?
Unmute. Yeah, I like that question a whole lot. And I would say that I think kind of a good way of taking a litmus test to determine, where am I in my being? How am I really feeling with myself, about myself, others, is to ask yourself the question, this moment, because that's really all we have. Am I in the love camp or am I in the fear camp? Because there really are only two things in life. You're either in love or you're in fear. And you can't be in both. You can from minute to minute, hour to hour. We say we get triggered in life, right? And I think that for me, the way that I made it into truly camping out in the love camp was through forgiveness, through forgiving myself, through the inner journey, forgiving others, and understanding that it's not about looking outward, that all of our answers truly are within, and so is our joy. But if we're angry, feeling slighted, feeling negative, there's not room for the joy, and we're kind of left with, well, we're afraid, but fear masks and sort of parades in a costume all its own. It has many different looks. So that for me is, I check in with myself. And if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I know I'm afraid. If I'm feeling really good, I'm in that love camp and I'm feeling the joy. And if I'm feeling afraid, I say, that person who triggered me, I still have work to do.
Well said. Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more. Well said.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Jane. And you've actually segued into a lot of what it covers in the next chapter. But we'll just we'll get back to this one, just conscious of keeping time ticking along here. So they're good points, and we'll come back to a couple of those as we go through into the next chapter. Forgetting tomorrow is the other thing. We've talked about the past a lot there. Many people are checked out of today because they're thinking about tomorrow, and their fears, as you just alluded to there, about the future rip them from the blessings of the moment. So these fears about what might happen, what could go wrong, and those fears are very often triggered by the memories of the past. if we've made a mistake before and we've embarrassed ourselves or humiliated ourselves, we don't want to make that same mistake again. And then that leads to fear of taking future action in case you stuff it up again, you know? So it is about balancing that and about forgiving yourself for mistakes or past transgressions, because you can't do anything about them to change them. Well, sometimes you might be able to make amends to some people you might have upset or something like that, but you can't change what happened or what was said. You know, it happened and that's that. Move on. But you can change today and moving forwards. So yeah, very good point about the triggering is that, you know, we're very often triggered by those memories or by those previous experiences, and yet the person who's supposedly triggering us may have a completely different agenda, a different perspective on things to the memory that you know, we're relating it back to. So it is very much a case of looking at yourself first and going, well, why am I feeling this way? Why am I being triggered? What is it about what's happening in this situation that's making me react like this? And as I said, this is something that comes a little bit more in this next chapter. But regardless of their memories or dreams for tomorrow, the masters of this life are always bringing their focus back to this very moment. Very powerful statement there. So he goes on to say, you could have written this, Jane. They frequently ask themselves, is my mind alert now? Am I noticing and fully sensing what is around me and taking it all in? Am I feeling this life? Am I directing my full power to what is in front of me and what matters? Great questions. You know, Tony Robbins says, if you want to improve your life, your situation, ask better questions. And this is the thing. A lot of us, you need to, and going back to what Justin queried before, people need to spend that time asking themselves these questions. And Jim Rohn talks a lot about it. You know, do you journal? Do you sit and consciously think about, well, what did I learn today? Or how did I behave today? Could I have been better? Could I have made eye contact with that person behind the checkout? Or could I have given that person a smile instead of being so preoccupied with all my stuff that I was dealing with, you know, and was I actually present, or was I just kind of zoned out with all this mind noise that we all experience? So yeah, some among us haven't the strength to ask such questions, preferring the easy escape from life, that is avoidance. They prefer to turn away from the responsibilities or circumstances right in front of them. And this is why so many people do just settle for the idiot box instead and don't explore any kind of rational thinking or a development of their emotional awareness, or just the self-analytical skills that these books do provoke. These books stimulate our thoughts and get us to become more self-aware and to ask these questions of ourselves. So he says avoidance may be the best short-term strategy to avoid pain and conflict, but it is also the best long-term strategy to ensure suffering. All things must be dealt with, and now is the time to begin. So he's really quite, he's not sort of talking that life is all, you know, cherries on top and everything's rosy in the garden. Well, of course, we all have struggles, we'll have challenges, we'll have setbacks, things that don't go to plan. He says, free and motivated people do not neglect reality. They meet difficulty with attention, seeing these as opportunities to test their faith, strength, and love. There's that word, Jane. So through practice, they learn to find comfort in the uncomfortable and true mastery in life. As Jim Rohn always liked to say, you know, that what's the next 10 years going to be like? Well, pretty much like the last 10 years. It'll be opportunity mixed with difficulty. And that doesn't really change. As you said, it's the set of the sail. It's how you look at things, how you choose to take control of your own life and master your own actions and your own behavior, your own thoughts. What should I finally face in my life? What truths or realities are preventing my growth and happiness? What could I do about it right now? How can I better connect with this moment so that I can master what the hour demands of me? All good questions. So he then talks about these different roles, and I found this fascinating, that like we have these different alter egos in a way, I suppose, or certainly components of our egos and components of our character, our makeup. And at any different moment, we can play one or a combination of these 5 vital roles. The first is the observer. So very much what we've been talking about so far, the conscious viewer, as if you are hovering above yourself, looking down on the situation and asking yourself these questions. You know, why did I get angry there? Why did I react like that? So it's a gift of self-awareness. Why am I reacting this way right now? Will anger serve me in this moment? If I were responding as my highest self, what would I say and do right now? Very, very powerful questions. And as Yanni said earlier, it really very similar to Eckhart Tolle's book. If you haven't read it, The Power of Now is another one we will look at at some stage. It's really about that, becoming better at being the observer of yourself. So your mind is not you. Your mind is actually separate to you. You can take yourself out of yourself and go, why am I thinking like that? Why is my mind feeding me these thoughts? And so you become the observer. And you know, a lot of religions talk about this as being the spiritual observer. We do have these, we all have this head noise, we all have these thoughts, we all have the jealousies, the frailties of humanity, but it's how we deal with them. Do we let them guide us? Do we let them control us? Or do we take control and master ourselves and go, well, I can understand why I might think like that, why I might be jealous of that person, but I'm not going to feel like that. Good on them for doing that, and I could do that too if I put my mind to it. That kind of thing. So it's how we respond. The second role he talks about is the director. The more proactive role, the conscious and intentional creator of our lives. And I love this analogy as if your life is a movie and you are the director of the movie. And from this simple metaphor, we can draw much wisdom for improving our lives. You set the camera angles, you control the lighting, you decide on the script, you decide which actors you're going to put into it. It really is the movie of your life, and you can direct it one way or another. You can have 2 people experience an event. One is crushed and devastated by it and spends the rest of their life scared to go out of the house. And the other person turns it around as inspired and goes and changes their life and helps loads of people and does all sorts of things. The same people can experience the same situation, the same event, and yet react totally differently. And one learns from it, the other is crushed by it. So becoming the director is powerful. What shall our life story be, and how can we direct our thoughts and actions to make that vision a reality? More good questions. The third role deserving our attention is that of guardian, the guardian to our mind, body, and soul. I love this again. He's so good at these visual statements. We must stand at the gates of our life and protect ourselves from unwanted contaminants, negative information, people, and habits. Anyone know any of those people? No, not on this call. So most people would feel guilty for destroying someone else's property, yet they wreck the very temple their creator gifted them. Well, this body's a temple. I don't know if I'm wrecking it. Yeah, I might be a little bit overweight. Yeah, definitely. Anyone willing to confess to wrecking their temple? So our health. Good on you, Wendy, for your honesty there. Our health is one of the most crucial things. I mean, if you don't have your health, life's not that great, is it? And yet how much do we neglect it? We've got this burgeoning health industry and dealing with obesity. My wife's just spent a year becoming a weight loss counselor, and helps people with the whole mindset around their attachment to food and so on. He says it's time we protect our health by paying more attention to what we're putting in our mouths. There is no lack of information on how to choose a healthy diet or live a healthier lifestyle. We've heard all this stuff before. Move more, exercise more, drink more water, get more sleep. None of this is new. What is required is a new commitment to caring for our bodies. And if we let the energy of our body fade, our motivation goes with it. We must surround ourselves with positive, kind, and inspiring people. One of the reasons I do these calls. So, the fourth role is the warrior. And the warrior in the sense of we must be bold, fierce, and unrelenting in chasing our dreams. We must want to win, to bring back treasures and glory to our homes, to leave nothing on the battlefields of life but the legend of our courage and might. So, fighting talk, people, fighting talk. Owning the warrior, the role of the warrior, requires us to take stock of all the things that we're deeply committed to in life. What will I stand for in life? That old saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. How will I bring honor and abundance to my loved ones? What adventures will make me feel alive? What do I want, and how hard am I prepared to fight for it? So you're going back to Justin's question, you know, how many people actually ask themselves, what do I really want? The old Spice Girls song, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. People, showing my age now, yeah, people don't really ask themselves that enough, do they? You know, if you did a survey, I haven't done one, but I'm pretty sure if you did one, and you ask people what they really want, most people would be quite on the spot. They'd be sort of, you get quite a lot of blank expressions. It's rare that you get someone who will immediately blurt out their bucket list of everything they're going to achieve, and they've got it all figured out. And well, this year I'm doing this, next year I'm doing that. And people, there's very much that sense of drifting in the community. Another book that we covered was the amazing book by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, which was a fascinating story of him having a conversation with the devil and finding out how the devil is able to control people. And you know, don't want to get into all the religion and your particular personal beliefs about that, but it was a fascinating concept of how the majority of the people are just drifting, and that was how the devil gets you, that he just makes you drift instead of actually taking control of your life and going on and going after the things that you want to achieve. So am I acting with real conviction and commitment in life, or simply trudging through? I know I've had those feelings on occasion that, what am I doing here? I'm just sort of trudging through, getting through the day, getting through the week. And really it's because you haven't committed to something, committed to a personal quest or a mission. And how much more exciting and adventurous is life when you do have something that you're really excited about and you're really committed to and you're really working towards. I'm sure we've all experienced that at some point in our lives too. So he says, we must commit to fighting harder and longer towards our dreams. Let us write down all the things we've been waiting to do, along with all our excuses for not doing them. Let us contemplate where we're being weak in our lives or progressing too slowly. Then let us get recommitted and decide that tomorrow, no matter what, we will march with courage toward our dreams, regardless of the obstacles in the way. Powerful stuff. That's the warrior role. And then we have the lover. There you go, Jane. There's your word, love. So let us master our role as the lover. Take a vital interest in others so that they may understand them, care for them, and contribute meaningfully to their lives. Lovers communicate from the heart and seek to enlarge the heart of those around them by giving them respect and empathy. We have to ask more questions. How was their day really? Really? What are they struggling with? What would make them feel more alive and happy? How can we connect with and care for them better? Is there a way we can demonstrate even more affection and appreciation for them? It's so easy to neglect those questions, isn't it? Particularly if you've got a partner that you're in a relationship with, it's very easy to forget to really allocate that time and focus to go, well, how was your day today? If you've been apart for a few hours, you know, what have you been up to? what mattered to you, what experiences did you have, and really listen and be engaged in the answers too. You see, I'm definitely struggling to get all this through in the time allotted here today. Leader, the next role is the leader. Our understanding of the role of the leader, we must begin again with the great work of uplifting mankind, of humankind. What can be done to improve this world that I can influence? We can all influence our own little part of it, can't we? If we are self-aware, if we are more engaged and more present and more making a contribution to our people around us. As he says, how can I help others solve problems and achieve their dreams? Who can I enlist and empower to help achieve something remarkable? How can I unlock the potential of those around me to do more good? We must forget the excuses and remember our duty to serve something larger than ourselves. So each of these roles, observer, director, guardian, warrior, lover, and leader, is available to us in any moment. And we can, if we activate them, we can own the moment in ways we never imagined. So a useful exercise, isn't it, to think about those different characters, if you want to look at them that way, and go, which character shall I be in this moment? Which of those roles am I actually taking on right now? If you do this, motivation will arise, life will come back, a vibrancy will emanate through our entire being. The sunshine of enlightenment spreads to those who understand that the moments of our lives must not go unnoticed and unlived. We can choose our roles and responses to the world so that over time our character and destiny are forged purposefully. That's the end of that chapter. Anyone got any thoughts on anything that we've just covered there, or anything that leapt out of them that they want to share?
Yeah, I'll go, Tony. Just reflecting on this, I guess most of us have identified with certain parts of ourselves, and so that forms the bulk of the self-image of who we have, which is what I was alluding to in my earlier sort of statement / question. And intellectually, yes, you can, we can read the books and go through those, and those things are important. But unless you actually deal with the personal self-image you have of yourself, that will always stay dominant. And that's why some people wonder why I'm doing all the right things, but yet I can't seem to get the results. And if I do get the results, they don't seem to be sustainable long term. I mean, we can all relate to losing weight, and then 3 months later, those donuts come back in again, and So yeah, so it's just, for me, it's just an interesting thing, and which is why, as I said, unless you actually improve because there's only one consciousness, but there's different levels of it. And for me, it's always, it's like money. You can talk about money and this and the other, and you say, I've read all these books, but yeah, when you look at your bank account, it doesn't kind of reflect. You may say you know a lot about money, but the bank balance tells you something entirely different. And so, yeah, so for me, that's always been that challenge of just making sure I'm not, pulling the wool over my own eyes.
Yes, and we all do it at different times, don't we? We're all guilty of it. Jane.
I think it's the difference between being a human being or a human doing. I think that's where our satisfaction and happiness lies, because a human doing is outside oneself. A human being dwells inside and isn't so focused on making the grade, grabbing the brass ring, what do I do now? I've done everything, all the points. It's like, yes, so that's to simplify, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we'll go on to the next chapter because I'm just conscious of time. I will apologize. I think we're going to go a few minutes over. So if anyone needs to go, feel free. Don't feel like you're letting the side down by leaving if you have other things you have to do. the next chapter, because I focused a lot on this chapter because there was so much content in it, so many powerful statements and exploring those different roles that we play, which sets it up for this next chapter, which is we shall reclaim our agenda. So bearing in mind everything we've just learned and discovered in that last chapter, the great joys in life come when we are spontaneous and authentic each day whilst engaging in activities that we care about. So we all know that there are times when we may be doing something that we don't particularly relish, but we can change our perspective on that. We can actually change our attitude towards it. We can see it in a different way and go, well, I need to do this in order to do the higher level thing, or it's just something I have to get through to do something. So if I'm going to have to do it anyway, I may as well enjoy it or make the most of it, rather than living a life of being, begrudgingly having to do everything and being annoyed with yourself and annoyed with the world because I've got to do this stuff that I don't want to do. So very much it does come down to our thoughts, choosing our thoughts. Did you use the time I gifted you each day to be a purposeful being? That would be a question here. He says that the Creator would ask of you at the end of your time in this realm. If you were given these gifts, if you were given these talents, did you make use of them? Did you do the best you could with them, or did you just squander it? Did you just live a meaningless life and begrudgingly trudge your way through, getting from day to day? He says, let us make this day the day we take back our life's agenda from the grips of conformity and distraction. This thing about drifting and just, being the couch potato and that sort of stuff. We have to focus more. We have to fight harder to safeguard our time and our dreams and our soul. So very much talks about people distracting you from that, people asking us to do things to help them, or to participate in projects that we may feel obliged or socially obligated to participate in, or family gatherings that we have to go to that we don't particularly want to go to, or the boss asks you to do something extra and you feel, well, better not upset the boss, or it could be a relative or a friend. And so we're all he talks a lot about this in this chapter. We're all torn with all these different distractions and all these different requests of our time and our effort and our focus away from our own focus, which so many people don't set up in the first place, is what do we really want out of life, and what are we doing towards getting it? So he says, let us never forget that speaking up for ourselves and telling the world what we want and desire is a fundamental practice of a free life. So I'm sort of speeding ahead and picking things out here, but did I direct myself purposefully so that I can live my highest truth and serve my highest good? These are good questions. Reclaiming our life agenda is about asking, am I proud of who I am, the person I'm becoming? Am I happy with what I'm doing and contributing to the world? Have I felt grateful for this day and its opportunities? Gratitude is another big thing that a lot of these books will come back to, because it is about refocusing on your attitude towards your present situation. So what will give us a sense that we are once more in command of our life's agenda? Clarity, direction, and progress. Being clear about what it is that we want, what it is we're working towards, having a direction of how we're going to get there, and feeling like we're making progress towards it. Stan had to leave us. He's put a note in the chat box. He's got to go and do the school run, so he's had to head off. So if we don't like the work we're doing, we have three choices: continue hating what we do, change our perspective and find meaning and joy in our current task, or quit the dispassionate work and seek out what will make our soul sing. So he says, we all know that the seeds of greatness grow faster in the hearts of those doing work they love than in the bitter hearts of those enslaved by the work they despise. So many people just put up with a job that they're not particularly happy with, or a relationship that they're miserable in, or a set of circumstances that they could probably change, And if they can't change them, they could certainly change their attitude towards them. And yet you have these nations of people who are just kind of drifting along and putting up with stuff that they're not really happy with. So what if I were free and strong enough to go and find something more engaging and fulfilling? So very much this thought process that a lot of these books do come back to. If you're not clear about what you want, how's the universe going to deliver it for you? If you're wishy-washy, if you're vague about what you want, you're not really going to be focused and go and get it, are you? You're going to just kind of deal with whatever life throws at you. So key points he suggests: start by taking our day back tomorrow, by scribing our dreams tonight. Again, this whole thing about having a journal, asking yourself these questions, writing down your thoughts, your feelings. What am I really after in life? What do I truly want to create and contribute? What kind of person do I want to show the world each day? And who do I want to spend it with? And what cause is going to keep me going when I feel distracted or weak? And when the donuts get put in front of me? What will be my ultimate legacy? Another great tool as a coach that I sometimes ask people is, if you had to write your own obituary, what would you want people summing up your life to say about it? What would you want it to have meant to other people that you care about, friends, family, business associates? What would you want them to say about you? And it's quite a sobering sort of thought, because it does make you think, well, if I want them to think that of me, how do I need to behave? What do I need to go after? And how do I need to conduct myself? And how do I need to be present for people and contribute to people in order to have the world think of me as fondly as that? Good questions. So he says this is a lot of these things without written directives, all is lost in the randomness of human behavior. As Justin was talking about before, we do get hit by these things. Like, we might have lost the weight and then we get the donut put in front of us. We are random a lot of the times unless we're committed. So we can have concerns, but are we committed to them? This is why we must write, and this is why we must revisit our manifestos, and that is why we must act in alignment to the agenda we have set for ourselves. So this whole book is about encouraging and influencing and inspiring you to consider all of these questions, to write down what kind of life you want to have, who you want to become. And we're all a work in progress, as we said. So some people might think they've already got there and they're already perfect. There are a couple of those people around. Yes. Who will I give value, love, or appreciation to? What will I do or experience that will help me feel fulfilled and grateful when I rest my head's pillow tonight? This is called living intentionally and independently. It's how motivated persons live. So rather than becoming a victim to the world's desires, taking control, being the master of your destiny. How we handle the enemies of our own progress speaks to our character and independence. And part of that, he talks about taking control back of your time. So not being pulled by all these different people who are having requests on your time to do things and attend things that you don't particularly want to go to. We must not fear saying, no, I cannot help you. It doesn't mean you have to be rude or nasty, or he's not saying, don't help people. He is saying very much help people, but choose what is a good use of your time, rather than just doing something to try and keep other people happy or stop them whinging, but actually to do things that are going to be meaningful and helpful. The more we say no to demanding people, the more life opens us up to pursue our passions and happiness, and to serve and spend time with those we love. So that's old opportunity cost. When you're not doing one thing, or when you're doing one thing, you can't be doing something else. So if you're wasting your time on trivial projects or trivial pursuits, or helping people with random things that aren't really that meaningful, that they could probably do themselves, that they're just, you know, being lazy or trying to draw your time away from what you're doing. Having a focus, knowing what you want, will keep you on track. So he says we must keep the big picture in mind. A million dreams have died because compromising souls repeated the lie of the weak. I'm okay with putting off my needs and dream another few years because people need me. Well, do they? So he says, if we can see a dream in the distance, let us move towards it with real force, will, and consistency. Consistency is a big word, isn't it? Every day we can do something to advance our own agenda. Yes, we can, but only if we have an agenda. And this is, you know, goes back to the point we talked about earlier. If you don't know what you want, if you haven't really thought it through, if you're not asking yourself these questions, how can you commit to something? You haven't really set up an agenda or a manifesto for yourself. So that's what the purpose of this book is really all about, is getting you to think through all of these things. And he says real progress often comes in our lives once we make people our allies in accomplishment. Each day we have a choice to go with the wants and whims of the world or to chart our own course. Our attitude each morning must be that this is our day, no matter what. And if we can start with that intention and develop clarity and write our own manifestos and plans, we execute them with heart and discipline, stick to it, fight through it, stay in charge, then suddenly we'll find ourselves one day back at the helm, happy, motivated, and alive. Who feels happy, motivated, and alive? Yes. People, your thoughts on that powerful chapter?
That is the part, I actually rewrote a lot of the parts in this Reclaiming My Agenda. It really spoke to me.
Yep.
And I actually rewrote the Great Reclamation in first person and made it my own so that I could read it in the morning and remind myself. So it's like a big, you know, because he's just talking broadly to everybody, but then you want to take it in for yourself and make it your own, and then be able to live by that.
Yes, absolutely. Well done. That is what he says right at the beginning, is you know, go back and use this as a template, if you like, but then adapt it to your own particular situation, because we're all different. We all have different stuff going on, and we all have different dreams and ideas of what we want to do. But if you don't have anything, this is a great template to start with.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions through this whole chapter that you could actually extract out and use to write your manifesto for your agenda part.
For sure.
You know, but I highlighted them all because I'm going to take them out and put them into like a plan.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, that's you know, you're Brendon's ideal reader. That's what he wants you to do. He wants to influence people to do exactly that, to take his words and then modify and adapt, and, you know, adapt it to yourself, to what you want and what you want to achieve, what's meaningful to you. Like Tony Robbins said, nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning we attach to it. So yeah, it's perfect. Well done, Wendy.
Thank you.
Jane, did you have any thoughts?
Muted. Yeah, I love this because it's so much of what I think so many of us are looking to feed ourselves with, these ideas. It seems like all the gurus are saying the same thing, but then there are those phrases or those words, like, you know, you pointed out things like consistency, or, you know, living intentionally, you know, saying no to demanding people. And, you know, sometimes that certain something gets said, gets read, and it can change your life.
Yeah.
You know, when it speaks to you. So that's what I love. And writing my obituary, I'll tell you, I think that's the only thing I haven't had the bravery to do yet.
Yeah, it does require a certain amount of confrontation, self-awareness.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a good
like,
exercise. It really is a good exercise.
I agree. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Justin, did you want to add any thoughts?
Look, thank you very much. Wonderful to meet all of you. It's been a great and wonderful and friendly reminder that motivation is one thing, but you've got to back it up with action. I'm as guilty as anyone. We can talk the talk, and that's great. And but you've got to own the day, have clarity, which is another thing that reminded me. But you've got to back it up with action. It's the doing stuff. I think Jay mentioned that you've just got to if it's about health, then you've got to enact the actions. If it's about money, you've got to enact the behaviors. It's about relationships. You've got to do the things that create great relationships. And so that's what I've got out of today.
Excellent. Yeah, well, it really is all about relationships with yourself first, and then with those other people around you. And well, obviously that's the biggest one to start with, is your relationship with yourself, because like you said before, we read this stuff intellectually, we understand it intellectually, we can agree with it, we can sit here and nod our heads and go, yes, the ideal person should certainly behave like that. But do we take it on board? Do we actually work on ourselves and apply it? Who was it? Mark Twain said that knowledge is wasted unless you actually apply it.
True.
This is the thing. We are all a work in progress, and even if we apply it today, that's not to say that tomorrow we will slip and forget to apply it, or we'll get angry at a situation where afterwards we'll think, well, that was stupid. Why did I get angry about that? So we all are very much an ongoing work in progress. But this is why it's so important to read these books and so important to do this work, because what was it? Who was it said it? It's a bit like bathing. It's not something you just do once. I think it was Jim Rohn. Not something you just do once and that's it. I've washed myself, now I'm fine. Self-development is an ongoing exercise. Wayne Dyer talked a lot about that too. That we must do this work on ourselves because it matters and it makes a difference to our lives, and it is an everyday sort of challenge, but it requires a conscious commitment to try to be better than that person we were yesterday. It requires a conscious effort to put into that self-analysis. And it's so easy to just be busy all the time and then veg out in front of the idiot box and then be so tired you just go to bed, and you never spend any time thinking through, well, what do I really want, and how did I impact on those people around me, and what are my dreams, what's really important to me, and what could I do that would make a difference. And we all have the capability of doing it. So why do some people do it and other people don't? Why do we have people like Elon Musk and Richard Branson who go out there and make amazing things happen, and then other people who just get through the day and don't do very much at all? And we're all probably somewhere in the middle between those people. But this is what I love about this book. And when I read it quite a few years ago, again, going back to it a few years later, I've realized just how many of those questions have made an impact on me and have sunk in. And yeah, it's still not the finished article, but it's great to go back and review these things and ask yourself again, and to, on a daily basis, to go, well, did I smile at that person? Was I my best self in that situation? I know that sounds a bit sort of cliched and cheesy sometimes to talk about becoming the best version of yourself or aspiring to be that, but it is really about trying to be better, trying to be a better person, trying to improve your character. Yeah, any other thoughts before we go? No? Okay, thank you so much for your contributions, everyone. I hope that the points that I picked out resonated with you. I'm sure there was one or two things that probably resonated that I missed, but it's, you know, the thing we have to do when we speed through like this. But we'll go on to the next two chapters next time, which are we shall defeat our demons and we shall advance with abandon. Exciting chapters ahead there. So see you same bat channel, same bat time, as they say, next week. Thanks everyone.